This episode is brought to you by Hulu, presenting Paradise. Paradise is Hulu's critically acclaimed addictive drama series starring Sterling K. Brown, Julianne Nicholson, and James Marsden. The Daily Beast calls Paradise your next TV obsession, and the New York Times says it's exhilarating in all the right ways. Paradise is for your Emmy consideration in all categories, including Outstanding Drama Series. For more information, visit fyc.hulu.com.
This is Let the Record Show, using common sense. Now, here are your hosts, Judge Richard Weinberg and Chairman Jesse Garcia.
Welcome back. It's a new year. This is Let the Record Show with Chairman Jesse Garcia of the Republican Party. Jesse is the county chair of the Suffolk County Republican Party and the vice chair of the state Republican Party. I'm Judge Richard Weinberg. Welcome back to another year, and we hope it's a healthy and happy and successful year for all of our listeners and for the world. Well, I want to start off, Jesse, by asking you this question as we start this new year. As you look at this, what do you think we've learned as we begin a new year from the last year or so of what's been going on in the city, the state, the country, and the world?
Well, let me first begin by wishing everyone a happy new year. And I apologize I couldn't be here with you this past weekend to ring it in with everyone. Let me break this up a little bit into two parts. Let me one for locally. As the Suffolk County Republican chairman and a Republican from Long Island, I believe that we learned a lot in 23, and it's leading to a hopeful 24. In January 1st of this year, the first Republican county executive in Suffolk County in 20 years was elected and took the oath of office, and that's Edward P. Romaine. He's the ninth county executive in Suffolk County's history, and I think we're going to have him on in the show in a few weeks. The next day, the first Republican supermajority of the Suffolk County legislature was seated. And that was for the first Republican supermajority since 1996. And it's 1996 since the last time the Republican Party in Suffolk County has had the county executive and a supermajority in the legislature. And of course, we've elected Tim Hubbard, the Riverhead Town Supervisor, Amber Bach-Williams. We flipped the Shelter Island from blue to red, and she's the new town supervisor. And Dan Panico took the reins over for Ed Romaine in Brookhaven Town. So locally, it's a great year, and it's a great start because we've got some good lessons that we learned in 23 about good governance, and now we're implementing them in 2024. Now, if we look at what we've learned in 2023 on the state and national level, it's not as optimistic. I believe America, its morale and its leadership, both globally and within its own borders, is at an all-time low. And like everything else, that begins at the top with the president. I mean, our allies question our support on leadership on a global scale. You know, we are at war right now. It may be a different form of war, but we are certainly in a financial war, a diplomatic war, a cyber war. And we know with the axis of evil, Your Honor, that Iran and others are, especially Iran, are fighting proxy wars against American troops all over the Middle East, you know, and, you know, we talked about this, you know, we allowed Chinese incursions into the Western hemisphere, whether it be Cuba and now a balloon that now, as reports come out, that a balloon that crossed over America's, the breadth of America and its countryside. The Biden administration wanted to keep that secret until it was found out. But certainly with impunity, the Chinese are moving forward. And at the border is nothing more than a SID. We have human trafficking coming over. We have fentanyl coming over. We have cartels in control of our borders. Each and every neighborhood block now, Your Honor, is a border state. And it's leading to higher crime and more financial stress on our municipalities. These are hard lessons that we've learned in 2023. And it's going to take even more significant and tougher solutions to reverse in 2024. But the way to make up is in Albany, one-party rule with progressive socialist Democrats in control, and with Biden and, you know, being held hostage by the left wing of his progressive party, I'm not too hopeful. But America is resilient. New Yorkers are tough. And I have to have hope. Maybe the beacon of hope is what we have here in Suffolk County, Nassau County, and Long Island that leads with good governance.
Well, I think that's very interesting, very thoughtful. Let me respond to you, and you start off on the local level. And I think Suffolk County and Nassau County are really beacons of hope, and I think that's very, very important. The hope for countervailing voice and common sense public policies against the radical fringe of the Democratic Party, the progressives, the socialists, who are really running the Democratic Party. You have a governor who's rolled over by the state legislature, and the state legislature is governed by a radical left fringe. And why everybody's so intimidated by these folks, I don't know, but it's the Working Families Party, it's the Democratic Socialists, it's characters like Gineris, is a state senator from Queens, who really controls the state Senate. You've seen a governor who got rolled. She couldn't even get her chief judge nominee through. They pushed through somebody who went along with a vote, a 4-3 vote on redistricting challenge brought by the Democrats because they were against fair and equal districts as found by the special master and vindicated by a previous Court of Appeals. So I'm not optimistic at all about going in to 2024 with these people in charge. I'm particularly not optimistic because you see that they keep pushing an agenda. For example, they want to have a reparations commission. Nothing could be, and Hochul signed it. A reparations commission, it's bad economic policy, it's bad public policy, it's bad for social cohesion, and yet she's going along with that. That's not going to help this state. Also, there was a recent article in the New York Post, and a former head of the FBI, special agent, one of the counterintelligence officers, and he's talking about you need to have law and order, public safety, and it begins with the bail reform changes, and he articulates what they are and what you need, which is giving judges more discretion and keeping people in who are dangerous or who violate the court orders. The short answer is I'm not optimistic you can get changes in the state legislature. The last thing that makes me pessimistic is another bill that Hochul went along with and supported, which is taking the local elections and putting them into the even number years, so where they have a greater Democratic turnout, and that's an attempt to maintain the supermajorities of the Democratic Party, not just in terms of the state legislature or the governor or the other statewide offices, but also the local levels where you do have the countervailing voice, like you folks in Suffolk and Nassau. So I'm troubled by that battery of problems in New York. So that's my view on the state, Jesse. In the world, looking at what have we learned? We've learned that the world is an ever-growing and more dangerous place, and that America is as weak as it's been in my lifetime or yours. We're meeting challenges that we have not addressed properly. You have that axis of evil that we talk about, which is Iran and Russia and China and Venezuela and Cuba and North Korea, and they keep trying to expand their influence. They use surrogate for the wars, the proxy wars. That's Iran. You have attempt through new economic arrangements with this group called BRIC, which even Saudi Arabia, which is supposed to be a friend of the United States, is now looking to join. And that's because of Biden's failure as a leader of this country in protecting American interests. What say you?
I completely agree with you. And it's interesting how we both have mixed state, national, and local issues together. One of the things that you brought up that was important in this issue is, to me, is the moving of local elections to even years. And the actions that the Democrats in Albany continuously take to actually suppress the vote of New Yorkers on Long Island, in Westchester, upstate New York. That is the ultimate act of suppression. They want to get all these local issues that don't get all the attention that a gubernatorial candidate gets, a U.S. senator gets, a U.S. congressman gets, a gubernatorial candidate gets, or maybe I mentioned that already, or a presidential candidate. And they want to mix it together because they think that it's going to benefit them. It's not for increasing voter turnout or increasing voter participation. It's really to hurt local elections and really drown out those important matters. Because if we've seen anything, it's local issues, whether it be Hochul's, take it or leave it, local control be damned on housing.
She wants to supersede zoning. She wants to supersede local zoning.
The most ultimate local issue in zoning. So that's what they want to do. Everything they do is to change the goalposts, change the rules of elections so it benefits them, not because they want to have a fair debate on issues, policies, and initiatives. It's because they just want to game the system, and that's wrong. And then you mentioned also, and so that's how the local issues now reverberate up into the state and national issues. What they want to do is drown out local issues that hurt them at the ballot box so that they can continue to try with their partners in big tech, in their partners in the mainstream media that's got a liberal bent, in the indoctrination of our students, both in our schools, local schools, and academia in the universities and colleges. They want to get their progressive failed policies in place, and the people be damned. That's the problem that we're facing. These are the problems that have come to a head in 2023, which we need to either take bold steps in 2024 as a people with one voice within a chorus to say no more, or as in that great film we remember, Your Honor, I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm not going to take it anymore, or something like that. I'm sick and tired.
Network. I'm sick and tired. We're not going to take it anymore. Right.
Sick and tired. We're not going to take it anymore, and such. I even had that planned and written out, and I still flubbed the line. But thank God you saved me.
Well, that's because I like old movies. That's why.
So do I. So I mean, that's where I believe that where we are, and I'm glad. I love the way you brought that, because those are the ultimate issues. You drowned out suburbia so that your progressive failed policies will go unchallenged and protected by big tech influencers on social media that are paid for and have their voices enhanced by big tech algorithms, while conservative voices are set aside. And of course, the mainstream media. And let's not forget, we'll probably get to this a little bit later in the show, the constant attack and changes our American institutions to serve one master, a political master and a political idea of the progressive left.
Well, I'm glad you raised that issue. We have a few minutes left in this segment, and I just want to raise this issue with you. There's a new group that's been organized. It's very, very well funded. It's very well organized. There's been an attack on the Supreme Court of the United States as a check and balance, as the ultimate authority of the Constitution, the law, under the doctrine of judicial review by the Supreme Court. And what they want to do is they want to pack the Supreme Court, or they want to limit the terms of office, or have mandatory age requirements. The problem with that, Jesse, is that they deliberately try to confuse the issue. The role of the Supreme Court of the United States is not to take political sides, whether it's for the left, whether it's for the right, whether it's for Democrats, whether it's for Republicans. The role of the court is to be a nonpartisan actor and to uphold the American institution. If they undermine the integrity of the court, Jesse, which they're trying to do, then there's no faith left in the justice system or in the constitutional system of this country. The founding fathers of this country realized the importance of having three branches of government as checks and balances against the other. Chief Justice Marshall, our first distinguished first justice, Chief Justice of the United States, recognized the importance of having someone interpret the Constitution and be the last voice on this. And this attack on the Supreme Court, the so-called ethics reforms, which are always, of course, built in against the centrist or the conservative justices, and ignoring the other judges and what they do or don't do. The double standard, the hypocrisy is awful. You have Chuck Schumer, our senior senator from New York, is the majority leader of the Democratic Party in the Senate. He goes up on the steps, and as you remember in that famous talk he did, he tried to intimidate the Supreme Court of the United States and name Supreme Court judges. So it was no surprise that there was physical threats to Justice Kavanaugh after his trumped-up bad hearings where it wasn't on the merits and they're trying to make stuff up against him. This is serious business. We don't respect the integrity of the court and you make personal threats against the court. So the next salvo they're doing is they want to have term limits. Why? Because they want to get rid of the centrist conservative judges and they want to have the left wing pack the court. That's what it's all about, Jesse. And we have to stand against that. We have to learn that that's the lesson to learn. The Supreme Court must be protected against partisan attack by the fringe radical left. All right, we have to take I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, just one further thing. That's because there's a fundamental difference in our approach on the common sense governance here and the far left. They want an activist judiciary. They want an activist judiciary to actually make laws, where we want a judiciary that is grounded in common sense, grounded in the Constitution, and interprets the law and rules fairly. Yes, no, this is how it needs to be addressed. A court that leaves it to lawmakers to legislate and for the judiciary to decide upon fairness of the actions.
Well said. Let's take a break. This is Let the Record Show with Chairman Jesse Garcia of the Republican Party. I'm Judge Richard Weinberg. Please stay with us. We'll be back in a moment for more interesting conversation.
Missing out on family time because of all the noise? Enjoy the moment without straining to keep up with the conversation.
Wow, what a beautiful sunset.
Discover Nuance Audio, the new invisible hearing solution that's built into your glasses. Discreet, comfortable, and easy to use. Nuance Audio glasses help you hear better and reduce background noise, so you can get back to enjoying time with your loved ones. Find a store near you at nuanceaudio.com.
Clorox Sentiva smells like lavender. Cleans like Clorox. And feels like...
All right, that could go on for a while. Experience the long-lasting freshness of Clorox Sentiva. Available in Clorox Sentiva Lavender Scented Bleach. Use as directed.
Home means something different to everyone. But with Rocket Mortgage, home can mean even more. It can mean a college education, taming your high-interest debt, even a renovation. We've made it easier than ever to use your home equity. That home you worked so hard for, now it can work hard for you. Call 800-4ROCKET or visit rocket.com to find out more.
Rocket Mortgage, LLC, licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030.
Are we still on the trail? Is this pack getting heavier? More switchbacks? Why am I doing this?
At REI Co-op, we believe there are places within ourselves.
Just a little further. You got this.
That we find only outside.
Wow. Look at the stars. This is incredible.
We have the gear, inspiration, and advice to help you get there. REI Co-op. Visit rei.com.
This is Let the Record Show, using common sense. Now, here are your hosts, Judge Richard Weinberg and Chairman Jesse Garcia.
We're back on Let the Record Show with Chairman Jesse Garcia of the Republican Party. I'm Judge Richard Weinberg. Jesse, I want to pick up where we left off because we're talking about the importance of the United States Supreme Court as an institution to have checks and balances and the rule of law rather than partisanship and factionalism in this country. And I want to talk to you about 3 decisions that are going to be coming up in this election year, Jesse, that are very important for the future of this country. And they all involve Donald Trump, by the way. You have presidential immunity. So Trump is claiming that he has presidential immunity because when he was acting on January 6th, he was acting in his official capacity to make sure that the laws were upheld, the constitutional processes were through, and if there's election fraud, it should be challenged. And this Jack Smith character, who's a special prosecutor, who's never seen a partisan attack on fairness that he wouldn't bring, he's gone after Trump on this. So Trump asked for presidential immunity. And I think there's a very good case, as a matter of law, Jesse, for presidential immunity, because there's a very good case that is protecting the institutional processes of the election, and he had a right to do that. Because remember, they're talking about election interference. They've never talked about insurrection. He was never indicted on insurrection. So much for that. And I think he has presidential immunity. The second issue I want to raise to you is banning presidential candidates from state ballots. Now, and they use the 14th Amendment. Now, this is a subject that I've talked at great length with Professor Alan Dershowitz of Harvard about, as well as Greg Jarrett of Fox News, a legal advisor to them as well, commentator. I think it's a frivolous argument, but yet they keep using it that somehow he was an insurrectionist, though he's never been indicted for being an insurrectionist. He's never been convicted for being an insurrectionist. There's no one who ever said he was an insurrectionist other than the highly partisan House committee appointed by Pelosi, which did not have any fair, balanced representation of common sense Republicans. They just put in a couple of Republicans there who hated Trump. So you've never had anything that shows he's insurrectionist. And as Jonathan Turley and Alan Dershowitz and Greg Jarrett and I have all pointed out, let's be fair. Let's be realistic. 14th Amendment was a constitutional amendment that had to do with the Civil War. And I think we can all consider the fact and stipulate consent and agree that Donald Trump had nothing to do with the Civil War of the United States when this act was passed. He was not a member of the Confederacy. This is pure nonsense. And by the way, there's a recent case, now that people were trying to go after members of Congress to bar them, Jesse, from running for election or for re-election to the Congress based on this 14th Amendment ridiculous argument of insurrection. The last issue I want to talk about is the attempt by Jack Smith to get gag orders against Trump in the middle of a presidential campaign when the likelihood is that Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee. And these are election issues that are being used against him. Why doesn't he have the right to fair comment and to have a voice in the election to talk about these charges made against him? How do you suppress that kind of that speech? It's also ridiculous for them to do this, but Jack Smith just doesn't care. He's shameless. So let's talk about those three issues. What do you think?
Well, those three issues we've been speaking about those issues for the better part of the last year. And let's all begin. This all begins and starts in one place. It begins by the Biden administration and the Democrats' weaponization of the Department of Justice and the federal law enforcement arm, the FBI, and its leadership. That's where this all lies. So let's talk about presidential immunity. They're charging presidential with the actions of January 6th and so on and so forth. It is the president's legal right to challenge anybody's legal right. They're presidents, council members, trustees, village officials, you name it, school board members, fire commissioners can challenge the results of an election based on a series of different issues. That happens every day in America. It's part of the electoral system. In fact, why don't we look back about 22 years ago? 22 years ago, almost 23 years ago, it was Al Gore who challenged the presidential elections in Florida and the election of George W. Bush in the 2000 presidential elections and took it all the way through the Supreme Court. Albeit, let's give George W. Bush credit. Him and his legal team were far superior and were steps ahead of the Gore team in that issue. I believe the opposite was true in 2020 with President Trump's legal team. But I remember being a chief of staff and sitting in the gallery of the House of Representatives when Democratic members of Congress would stand up and lecture electoral college members, electors, not to cast their ballots to certify the election of George W. Bush because of Florida and the litigation that ensued. So this is something that happens in small villages, school boards, and large elections. It's our right to challenge elections because we want to make sure, more than anything, that it was right. So I agree with you that this immunity question, I think the Supreme Court's going to take up and it's going to be successful. The 14th Amendment and the use of that is just a political tool. That is a political tool where, again, they're using the judiciary, an activist judiciary, a political judiciary for a political purpose. That is to continuously bring and put forward obstacles in the way of Donald Trump. Maybe they believe that by bringing these issues up over and over again, it's never going to have the American people forget January 6th or have the American people be subject to the statements of President Trump that he issues and missives that he issues. Maybe they think that that's right politically. It's bad for the institution of government. It's bad for the judiciary, and it's just plain wrong for our electoral system, because what they're doing is they're casting doubt ahead of the 24 elections on the integrity of these elections, because they're playing politics with the situation. And as I've been told, and I'm not sure if this is accurate, but I'll rest on you, Your Honor, I think the last time that states started removing presidential candidates from the ballot involved Abraham Lincoln. And of course, that led to a civil war. And then, of course, the gag order that we spoke about. This is probably one of the more political judicial cases. It's a partisan attorney, U.S. Attorney General, and a special prosecutor they appointed at the time to ensure that any and all of these cases would take a long time and be driven into the 2024 presidential cycle. The Biden administration waited for that. So I believe that all these three cases are going to be adjudicated fairly. The judiciary is going to be transparent. They're going to issue their rulings based on law and the Constitution. The Democrats will jump up and down, make threats against the Supreme Court again, intimidate them again by saying we're going to pack them, we'll give them term limits and the like, because Democrats can't win a fair game. They need to continuously change the rules in the middle of the game so that they have an opportunity to swindle the American voters. I think they've gotten away with that a little bit too long, and I think we've demonstrated an ability to shine that hypocrisy in the minds of voters, and that the voters are going to respond in kind.
Yeah, I think, Jesse, that's right. It's so important to understand that the weaponization of the judicial system, the weaponization of criminal justice as well as civil actions to try to intimidate your opponents is awful. It's also a way of trying to shape the narrative to brainwash and influence the American people. Because all these lawsuits and all these prosecutions against Donald Trump, 91 indictments, and the civil case by the Attorney General of the state of New York against Trump on his business dealings on an unconstitutional statute that she's relying on, never used before. This is all an attempt to shape the narrative. They thought that they would stop Trump from being the nominee. They thought that this was a brilliant idea to use the judicial system as a weapon to try to shape the narrative and control outcomes. To their dismay, it's now turned out it's only rallied Trump's base, and Trump's base is coming out strongly saying that he's the guy they want, and they're not going to be intimidated and not going to change their minds. And all of a sudden, the Democrats are waking up, and they see that Biden, with all his faults, and they are many, is not the guy they really want. Overwhelmingly, the members of the Democratic Party, and particularly amongst the young people, and now he's lost support amongst blacks and Latinos and Asians, overwhelmingly, people don't think Biden has done a good job. They don't want him as a nominee. They don't think he's mentally fit. They think he's too old for the job. They don't believe that he's done a good job in protecting our national security or taking care of our economy or keeping this country united. They have those problems with him. They want him out. But the problem is that the way the Democratic machine works, they've excluded anybody else from being a real candidate. And Biden is going to be the nominee. Now, whether he ultimately repudiates the nomination and throws it open for the Democratic National Committee or the National Convention to make a substitution, I don't know. And we can see what's going to happen there. But I'm troubled by it because nobody wants Biden to run, not even the Democrats. Republicans, and it's because it's not even partisanship. I'm the Democrat, and I'm telling you, I don't want that man running again. He's not fit to hold this office. He's long past prime time, Jesse, and he is a threat to the continued viability and safety of this country, both domestically and internationally. What say you?
I completely agree with you. I mean, I think that everyone doesn't want him to serve as president, but we'll see. But let's give the man his kudos. Also, in the 22 elections, the Republicans were supposed to win a 50-seat majority in the House. One way or another, the way it all came out, and a bunch of different reasons, we had one of the slimmest majorities in a Republican House that led to the ouster of a great speaker. In 2023, except for the parts of New York and Long Island, Republicans did not do well in elections in Virginia and throughout the breadbasket of this country. And we have to be prepared for that. So I do see that one way or another, Biden has been bouncing back when he has been on the ropes. And I think it's more of the following three reasons. Number one, I believe the Republican Party nationally needs to do a better job in how it conducts its elections, coordinates elections, and get its messaging. I think that we need to end this parochial fighting and personality clashes and set aside our personal feelings for the greater good. Number two, I believe we need to address issues like abortion and the economy and the national defense in terms that are easily communicated with the electorate, because the choices and the differences between the two parties are vast on that, and the Republican Party is more in line with the mainstream America than the Democrats are. And the other issue is we have to see what's going on, because I don't know if President Biden is going to be the nominee. There's been echoes, whispers, discussions about a Michelle Obama or a Newsom candidacy, but I have to tell you, the clock is running out now. This is not, and I don't believe that the power brokers in the Democratic Party are going to allow a brokered convention to get their nominee, and because that doesn't serve their needs. You don't make a move like that unless you know you have the numbers. And so it's interesting to see that the calendar is running out on moving Biden from the nomination, because it'll put the Democrats at a huge disadvantage come convention time. So it's an interesting point of view. I think that, just based on policies, quite frankly, are you better off? Ronald Reagan's term that was spoken about 43 years ago. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And we're not. This is the second coming. Biden is the second coming of the Carter administration, domestically, economically, and on the national and on the global scale and national security. And we are not better off. In fact, it's much tougher, if not tougher than it was in the years of the Carter administration.
All right, this is Let the Record Show. We're going to be taking a break. We're here with Chairman Jesse Garcia of the Republican Party, and I'm Judge Richard Weinberg. Please stay with us. We'll be back in a moment with more important conversations.
My favorite thing about Shipt since I signed up for Target Circle 360? No price markups when I order same-day delivery from tons of local stores. Only a handful of alcohol retailers and items don't count. I won't lie, I've had too much fun being like, markups on groceries? Not in my fridge. Markups on pet food? Not for my DOG. Markups on tools, electronics, home goods, meds? Not in my house. Anyway, it's awesome. Order now at shipt.com/360. Terms apply.
Morning decisions. A creamy mocha frappuccino drink? A sweet vanilla? Maybe a smooth caramel or that white chocolate mocha. Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Start your day with bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drinks. Pick up a bottle near you wherever you buy your groceries.
The rural way of life is about making everyone feel at home. Tractor Supply chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to transform intelligent customer service. Together, we put the power of AI to work across 2,200 stores, keeping things running seamlessly inside, curbside, and countryside. This is elevated customer experience. This is Tractor Supply with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
Get ready for Universal Epic Universe, featuring the wizarding world of Harry Potter, Ministry of Magic, and Super Nintendo World. Now open at Universal Orlando Resort. Tickets and packages on sale now at UniversalOrlando.com.
This is Let the Record Show, using common sense. Now, here are your hosts, Judge Richard Weinberg and Chairman Jesse Garcia.
This is Let the Record Show. I'm Judge Richard Weinberg with Chairman Jesse Garcia of the Republican Party. Jesse, the last segment we were talking about, and you raised the issue about Biden, this would be another Carter term. Now, I have to think Carter was a bad president, and I think every time I say he's the worst president of our lifetime, there's somebody else who's worse, and Obama was worse, and now you have Biden is worse. Now, the reason I think Biden is the worst is because he's the third Obama term. All the senior advisors to Obama, all the public policies that Obama pushed, Biden's carried forth. And they do have the audacity to put Michelle Obama in as a nominee. You'll have a fourth and a fifth term of Obama. And in my view, if you want to destroy America, Obama started us down this road. You can say Carter started us down when he let the Ayatollah come back from France and take over Iran. And that was really a beginning. But it was worsened by the nuclear deal pushed by Obama and Kerry, which enhanced the powers of Iran to be a nuclear power, to get monies that they launched these proxy wars and arm these terrorist organizations like Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis. All that was bad stuff, and that was the legacy of the Obama administration. So the idea that somehow, even if you get rid of Joe Biden, you're going to have anything good by having Michelle Obama there is absolutely naive. Now, if you don't get rid of Biden, that's a problem because, a lot of people just vote. They see the Democratic name, they just vote, and they don't care. But they should care because we need to bring America back, and we'll talk about that in the last segment. But I'm definitely against Biden because I don't think he's up to the job. I'm definitely against Michelle Obama or any Obama because I think they sold out this country. This country is not safe. It's not secure. And they're making us a declining power, and that's a terrible thing. And Harris, of course, is a raging mediocrity. She's only there because of identity politics. You saw what happened at Harvard when you had an identity politics president who was a serial plagiarist and an apologist for Hamas and violence and rape and murder. She couldn't even say that harassment of Jewish students on the campus of Harvard was against the policies and the rules of Harvard University. That's the kind of person you get when you don't get people picked on the merits, but you pick people based on identity politics. So President Gay or former President Gay of Harvard, identity politics. Vice President Harris, identity politics. That's one of the worst things that we have going on here is this identity politics thing. Now, that leads me into this view. And it all fits together, Jesse. Is 2024 the year that this cancer of wokeism dies? All this nonsense, this political correctness, where they say men are women and women are men, that they allow male athletes to compete against women, let them use women's bathrooms, tell you what pronouns you have to use, laws passed by cities and states saying that police officers have to address people by the pronoun that they choose rather than by their real names. I mean, what is this about? And can we really turn this tide of wokeism, which has captured the media, big tech, academia, businesses? Can this be pushed back, Jesse?
Your Honor, I think it is. I think it can be. I think it's going to be for two reasons. The first one is economically. I think that consumers are voting with their pocketbooks. They're attacking wokeism with their pocketbooks. They've turned the cancel culture on these products that have done these type of activities and whatnot. Anheuser-Busch and Bud Light being the most common, acceptable, understandable example of that. But there are many others that follow in that realm. The other one is a little bit more, not as mainstream. I honestly believe that Donald Trump as a nominee is one of the tools to end wokeism. Say what you want about the man. There is one thing. It is some straight talk. It is straight dinner table type of talk that comes from Donald Trump. And he was one of the first to truly attack and go after wokeism, the cancel culture, and wokeism. I think that he is going to be someone that has the, how would I put it this? How's best to put it? He has the bully pulpit and the ability to communicate to the American people the wrongs of wokeism, that we have to get back to more common sense. And something as simple as just people saying Merry Christmas. I remember that was like a big thing that happened in December of 2016. We went away from, the president went away from like happy holidays and such. We should honor and respect everyone's beliefs and their celebratory ways of doing that. But I don't think that we have to cancel Christmas and set it aside. I don't believe that Christmas is offensive. I don't believe that Hanukkah is offensive or Kwanzaa is offensive. You celebrate what it is and what is important to our people, to each and every one of our people. So I believe that really it's economically the people, the consumer, that's going to fight the wokeism. They're going to change that channel. They did it with the NFL. They did it with Bud Light when the NFL started with the kneeling at the national anthem. People turned it off. Their ratings suffered. They had to. The industry of the National Football League had to take actions to correct it. I believe that that's how you're going to fight wokeism and this cancel culture as we come forward.
Well, I have to tell you something. I do believe you're absolutely correct when you talk about Trump is the guy to fight wokeism. I think part of his appeal is that he was on the record fighting wokeism. Wokeism has to be fought. The reason is because when you control language, Jesse, you control thought. Yes. When you control thought, you control real intellectual analysis. You let the other side frame the discussion, narrow the issues. He who frames the issue wins in the debate. He who frames the issue has an overwhelmingly great advantage in competing for the minds of our fellow Americans. You cannot allow the woke to do that. You cannot allow that. Listen, I'm a Jewish American. I will tell you, I get an enormous kick. I revel every time I can say to one of my friends and colleagues, Merry Christmas and a healthy, happy New Year. I go out of my way to say Merry Christmas because they will not suppress my language. They will not suppress my thought. They will not suppress my ability to reason. If they do that, it's the Orwellian nightmare, Jesse. From 1984, the famous book that he wrote.
Absolutely.
It's all about mind control, and that's what they're trying to do through all the great institutions that they've taken over. And what's the most amazing thing to me about wokeism is how it infiltrated big corporations. You know, I understand academia because that's really been a citadel for the progressive left and the democratic socialists. I mean, the vast majority of professors across the country are extreme left. Very few, very small percentage, probably less than 5% of professors across the country are, and certainly in the so-called prestige institutions, are conservatives. They got it a way to suppress a countervailing voice against their ideology and their narrative. But when corporations rolled over and started doing that, I was just amazed. And when they set up this diversity, equity, inclusion nonsense, there was no diversity of thought. There was no equality of opportunity. It was equality of result. And they include anybody out who did not agree with them and subscribe to their doctrines. So it's the biggest hypocrisy in the world. It's all about mind control, and it has to be fought. It has to be beaten back. And I believe that somebody like Trump is the best one to fight against this cancer of wokeism. So this is Let the Record Show. We'll be back in a few moments for our fourth and final segment with Chairman Jesse Garcia of the Republican Party. I'm Judge Richard Weinberg. Stay tuned.
Impact confirmed. The Slayer has been activated.
Demonic threat level increasing.
Hold the line!
All the power of hell cowering before one man.
id Software presents Doom, The Dark Ages.
Available now on Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5, and PC.
Rated M for mature.
This episode is brought to you by Principles. Ray Dalio, legendary investor and New York Times best-selling author, wants to pass along his understanding of how countries go broke, because he believes the U.S. budget and debt situation needs to be addressed. To give you that knowledge, he has put the draft of his book, How Countries Go Broke, The Big Cycle, online for free. It's available now at economicprinciples.org.
Hey besties, listen up. I have a secret to tell you. LinkedIn now has improved the job search experience for nurses. Search by your specialty, the shifts you want to work, and the salary that you want to make. With so many employers hiring on LinkedIn, finding the perfect job is even more simplified. So don't spend months searching. Go to linkedin.com/nurses and find out why in the past year, more than 1.5 million nurses have used LinkedIn to search for their next role. That's linkedin.com/nurses.
This episode is brought to you by Factor. Optimize your nutrition this year with Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal service. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved, ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Choose from 40 weekly options across 8 dietary preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Eat smarter at factormeals.com/listen50 and use code listen50 for 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Factormeals.com/listen50, code listen50. T's and C's apply.
This is Let the Record Show, using common sense. Now, here are your hosts, Judge Richard Weinberg and Chairman Jesse Garcia.
This is Let the Record Show with Chairman Jesse Garcia of the Republican Party. I'm Judge Richard Weinberg. Welcome back to our fourth and final segment of this week's show. Jesse, I want to switch gears and let us focus on the following. I'll raise 3 questions for you. 1, how do we restore America and protect Western civilization? Next, has World War III already started? And last, what opportunities do we have to restore America and protect America? So let's start at the beginning. How do we restore and protect American Western civilization? You can only do that when you have a regime, an administration that's committed to making this a strong country. How do you make this a strong country? You have secure borders. You have a secure military. You have a strong economy. You have an ability to take pride in America and to be willing to continue the doctrine of Pax Americana, a world system that protected us against wars and adventurism and the tyranny of the tyrants that are out there that we've talked about. So you have to restore America and protect Western civilization, because when they go after Israel, Israel's the first line they're going after, but they're going after the Christians too, and the Hindus and the Buddhists as well. This Islamic fundamentalism is nothing but a hegemonic tyranny that wants to control your lives and your minds. And if you disagree with them, they will execute you. They will chop your heads off. They will bomb you. They will throw you off buildings. They just don't care about treating human beings decently and fairly. So we have to restore America and protect Western civilization. And the big challenge and threat and the danger is that we don't recognize this and we don't grow up and realize we have these problems, which leads me to my last point is I believe World War III has already started and we haven't recognized it. These axis of evil that you and I continue to talk about is out there going after us. They're trying to weaken us in all sectors. In our own hemisphere, they've undermined the Monroe Doctrine. They're moving China's going to be going after Taiwan. That's next. You have the Houthis interfering with international commerce. You have Turkey plays a double game and won't let the Brits send in escorts to go after the Houthis and protect the international merchant marine. These are serious issues, Jesse. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts, let's take the last one first. You're absolutely right. The Third World War has begun. It is being waged upon the United States. It's whether or not the Biden administration has woken up to that fact and is now taking positive actions towards it. And as I said earlier on, that war began and takes a different form. It's based on cyber attacks, attacking our financial institutions, the manipulation of currency, diplomatic. Watching China and we discussed BRIC, the move into the Middle East, and now enter into partnerships with Iran and other of those Middle Eastern countries, and filling the vacuum that was created by the United States not taking a leadership position in that region or on the global stage. And of course, diplomatically, as we discussed, and that axis of evil, the proxy wars, the attacks on our U.S. forces that would go on without.
You know, there have been 200 attacks, Jesse? 200 attacks.
There have been. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
exactly.
What is wrong with us? When are they going to wake up and understand that we have to fight back? Now, Israel just did the right thing, Jesse. They went after the number 2 guy of Hamas, and they got him in Lebanon. And Lebanon saying, you attacked our sovereignty. Well, what the hell was Lebanon doing with Hezbollah by attacking Israel? You know, once you start a war, don't tell me you're not fair game for retaliation and self-defense. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. How come America hasn't taken that lead?
And it should, because for 4 years under the Trump administration, we did. We eradicated ISIS. We went after the leadership, we went after its strongholds, and we removed them as an act of force against, an evil against the United States and society, excuse me, and such. So that has to be done. And remember, we've always said this. Israel is fighting a war right now that we don't want to. And we must support Israel in every single shape, form, and manner, because they're our ally. And if they fall, I do believe that our society is going to be very much in trouble.
And
but the other thing is to restore America's promise and restore America. Excuse me.
You have the same problem with Ukraine.
We do have the same problem with Ukraine. But how to restore America? Your Honor, I think it's time that everyone needs to look at them. You know, that we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, are we going to fight for our future as a nation and as a people and a society, or we're going to fight for the next 30-second soundbite? And the way we do that is, unfortunately, we need to put into place and restore common sense policies. That means stop an attack on our law enforcement and our cops. That means stop an attack on our prosecutors and stop an attack on our courts. We have to divert money away from progressive policies in criminal justice and the economy. And we have to honestly embrace policies and initiatives similar to the broken window theory, one that worked very well, whatever anyone may think about Rudy Giuliani today. I'm speaking of the Mayor Rudy Giuliani of the 1990s and through almost 2000. How he took a broken city, devoid of morale, filled with crime, and in deficit, and restored her. And basically by backing cops, cleaning up our streets, making an environment for small businesses to thrive, and to root out any small crimes that may be there. Because as we all know, the broken window theory is if you let the window stay broken, then they take down the door. Now they're leaving trash all over the place, and the quality of life gets affected, and then that's where gangs come in and crime is in our communities and our neighborhoods. That's what we need to embrace. We need to reduce the power and influence of big tech. That's, for me, something that needs to be done. And we have to govern for the average American or the average New Yorker instead of governing for power influence, which means kowtowing to the political polarized wings of each party, especially the progressives. We need to reach consensus.
I agree with you.
That's what we need to do.
I agree with you. When I was walking into the studio to do the show, I just saw Mayor Giuliani. And, you know, he's become a piñata for the progressive left. They've just absolutely beat the living hell out of Rudy Giuliani. And I will tell you, I spent 8 years at City Hall when I was general counsel, city council, and chief counsel Speaker Peter Vallone. And we had our disagreements with Rudy, and I litigated against Mayor Giuliani. And when he interviewed me for my first judgeship, which was criminal court before I went to Supreme, he asked me in the interview, He says, Richard, tell me about the litigation experience you've had. And I said, Mr. Mayor, you mean other than the 20 cases I had against you? So the fact of the matter is, well, it's true. We never, but Rudy appointed me to my first judgeship. I was reappointed by Mayor Bloomberg, and I was appointed Supreme Court by the chief judges of the state, Judy Kaye and Jonathan Lippman. And I will tell you that Rudy Giuliani loved this city, loved this state, loved this country, was always trying to protect and defend. And this was a better city for Giuliani's leadership. And you need people like that who truly love America to do the right thing. And Rudy Giuliani did that. And I commend him, and he deserves our respect and affection for that. Well, I just want to say, Jesse, it's good to have you back on the show. This has been a very interesting conversation. This has been Let the Record Show with Judge Richard Weinberg. That's me, and my very good friend, esteemed colleague, brilliant political commentator, and great leader of the Republican Party, Jesse Garcia. Welcome back, Jesse. I want to wish you and your family a wonderful new year, and all our listeners a wonderful new year, and look forward to many more interesting conversations on Let the Record Show. Thank you for listening.